Howdy, y'all. This is Mindy Grace, and you're watching the I-70 Hot Tag.
This is Handsome Scott Hansen, charmed, I'm sure, and you are so happy to be watching the I-70 Hot Tag.
This is Nixie XS, and you're watching the I-70 Hot Tag.
What's up, guys? I'm the Spotlight Logan Knight, and you are watching the brightest podcast in the world for professional wrestling, the I-70 Hot Tag.
I'm the natural Atlas Armstrong, and you're watching the I-70 Hot Tag.
What's up, everybody? It is one half of the beautiful people and 7-time women's world champion Angelina Love. And aren't you lucky? You are watching the I-70 Hot Tag.
Hey, I'm Marcus Buff Bagwell, and you are watching the I-70 Hot Tag, baby. Check it out, and remember, no matter what, I'm buff, and I'm still the stuff.
And now, CR Media presents the I-70 Hot Tag with your host, Chaos Chase, and the real Josh Elliott.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the I-70 Hot Tag. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Well, my little green light indicator wasn't like flashing, so I was like, fudge.
Sounding good.
Anyways, episode 92. Got about 8 left. Got a special episode for you tonight.
Wait, eight left? Is that all we're doing?
8 left until episode 100.
Gotcha.
Sorry.
Not to confuse.
Yeah, my mind is moving faster than my mouth. Anyways, appreciate everybody joining us tonight. Beckerman, everybody in the chat. If you guys haven't already, make sure you hit the like button, hit the share button. Let your friends know you're watching the I-70 Hot Tag, and let them know we got a special guest tonight. Our guest is one half of ACFC, Austin Reddick. Yeah, we'll get to that. Just want to take care of a few things first. If you guys didn't watch last week's episode, that's okay. You can go on YouTube, watch the replay. You say, Chase, I don't have time to sit and listen to you and Josh talk for an hour, interview somebody. I got stuff to do. That's awesome. Because our friend, the real Josh Elliott, has been busting his buns to get them uploaded on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. It's on all of them. So take us with you wherever you go, because I'm stuck in this basement garage, freezing my ass off, and Josh is stuck at home.
Yep.
So, Josh.
Yes, sir.
How you been, man?
I've been good, man. And
good.
I know you've been just as good because you're about ready to watch what is it? The 7th straight Kansas City Chiefs AFC Championship game.
I don't hate it, brother. I don't hate
Must
it.
be nice.
Yep. I was just
Well,
talking.
I'm drafting the top 5 of the draft every year.
Yep. I was just talking football with my friends over at Wire to Wire Sports for some Thursday night football talk, man. And they're all East Coast guys and they all hate me. So
yep.
Guys, if you didn't catch it, last week we had Stephen E, manager from southeast Missouri-ish area. Stephen E was a super treat to have on. He had a lot of great stories. Been in the business for how many years, Josh?
20 plus. I think he said 22.
Yeah, something almost 30. And said he managed the likes of, obviously Joe Helms right now, Attila Khan. But he had one in there that was a real big name, like a legend.
Yep, Kamala.
That's what it was. See,
yep.
That's why I have you take all the notes. Josh, tell everybody about all the different things we got going on.
Yeah, you can. We're here almost every single Thursday night at the I-70 Hot Tag, live on Facebook, live on YouTube. We're also live on our Instagram page. We have a couple followers and viewers over there. We can't see the comments on this screen, so you won't see any of your Instagram comments show up on the stream, but appreciate everybody tuning in over there. I'm at the real Josh Elliott on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X, TikTok, all that good stuff. And then same at the I-70 Hot Tag on the same platforms. Appreciate everybody for liking, sharing, following, all that good stuff. So, well, gonna have to wait, Beckerman. We'll announce at the very, 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 very end. So,
yes, we will.
Maybe
we will. All right, Joshua, I'm not gonna break tradition, brother. We're gonna keep it going here. I'm gonna let you introduce our guest, and
yeah, you kind of already said it, man. He's the one half of the tag team known as ACFC. He's also one half of the Heartland Championship Wrestling Tag Team Champions with his partner Tommy Too Good. You've seen him in HCW, you've seen him Fountain City Pro, Journey Pro, all across the Midwest. Our guest tonight has a big title match this Saturday in Wichita to defend those tag titles against OnlyFriends. Please welcome our guest tonight, Austin Reddick. What's going on, sir? How are you?
What's up, gentlemen? I gotta say, I'm digging the production value. I like the little intro video before bringing me on live. Y'all got this stuff locked down.
We try. We try. And by we, I mean Josh. Josh tries really hard. So.
How you doing tonight, man?
Doing well, doing well. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Austin, as we've talked about, the idea, the concept of this show is to put more eyes on independent professional wrestling in the Midwest. Kind of give you guys an opportunity to get out there. Maybe some people in the Midwest that don't know Austin Reddick, or maybe some people who might see this. We have viewers from Australia and all over the country. Get a better opportunity to know you as well. So I'm going to start this off with the same question I start every single one of our interviews off with. I want you to tell us and the people watching or listening, who is Austin Reddick?
Oh, that's a good question. If you have seen me in a pro wrestling ring before, you'll probably get me a little bit better. But for those of you that are not familiar, Austin Reddick is just a classic old school pro wrestler. Like I'm not the flashiest guy in the world, but I just love pro wrestling in a very simple and classic sense. My wife actually likes to always kind of joke on me a bit, because my literal favorite move in the history of pro wrestling is the abdominal stretch. So if you're not familiar, you come see me wrestle, you'll often see one of those. I like a good heart punch as well. But yeah, I am just a classic pro wrestler.
There you go. We actually saw you. Well, we've seen you a few times, obviously, but we saw you back in December of 2022. Was that the last Journey Pro show? I think it was. Anyway. This wasn't at the last Journey Pro show, but on Monday, and Chase was just as surprised as everybody else was, we brought back the pit stop after a 16-month hiatus. And that show, typically we would run on Monday nights. We would run do a watch along of our guest. And we watched a match of yours from Journey Pro, which happened at Blip Roasters against Arjun Singh. And you played a heel against a babyface Arjun Singh, which was crazy to see. But kind of talk about that match, what you remember from it, and then maybe just lean into your time as a heel and a babyface, and kind of which one you prefer to be at an event.
Yeah, absolutely. So that match was actually my first Journey Pro match. I believe. Okay, it was 2022. We were already here in Wichita. So yeah, I don't think we were still in Denver at the time. But my wife, and for those of y'all that don't know, my wife is Heidi Howitzer, a little bit more famous of a pro wrestler than I am. But that's how it goes sometimes. She had worked a few shots with Journey back when she was tagging with Maxie Impaler. And then, I got on. That was my first Journey show. I had an absolute blast working Arjun. That was such a good time. He's great in the ring in his own right, but much like me, he enjoys a more simple and classic style of pro wrestling. And just to be clear, when I say that, I enjoy watching all styles of pro wrestling. But for me as a performer, like my bread and butter is stuff you would have seen in like 94 to 96. Like to me, that's pro wrestling at its best. Just that kind of simple, not so old school that it's like just a headlock for 10 minutes, but like just a very basic, fun, entertaining match. I went out there. They asked me to be a heel, which I typically prefer to do. I seem to be pretty solid at just riling folks up. So yeah, that was a great time. But the biggest memory I have of that match was afterwards, Jeremy Wyatt got mad at us for bumping the ref in the opener, which was kind of funny to me. It was worth it though. It was worth it. So if you were watching on Monday for the replay and you saw the finish, I stole an old Randy Savage finish, pulled the knucks out of the trunks. He picks me up for a suplex over the ropes, bop him in the head, cover 1, 2, 3. Like, that's why I like classic old school wrestling. Just simple stuff like that.
I love it. One of the things that they did recently on like TV was one of my all-time favorite spots. Survivor Series 1996, Austin and Brett Austin hadn't adopted the stunner yet. He was still using the $1 Million Dream, but he was stone cold, and he put Brett in the $1 Million Dream, and Brett drags him to the corner and pushes his feet off the corner turnbuckle and rolls Austin up for the 3 count. Like I said, WWE just did it with Gunther and Cody. It's one of my all-time favorite spots of all time.
Yeah.
I mean, they could do it once a year and I wouldn't complain. I would be like, that's so awesome.
It's so good. I love a clever finish. Like, I love finishing moves too. Like, anything that's good, I'm down to watch. But I love when a finish catches you by surprise with something you weren't expecting. Going back to Bret Hart, Bret Owen at WrestleMania 10. The victory roll off the shoulders. Like, nobody saw that coming. Stuff like that. Like, to me, that's pro wrestling at its best.
Yes. Austin, speaking of pro wrestling at its best, I want you to talk to us about like your start into wrestling, and not just like your start into wrestling. I don't want this to be like your normal, like, how'd you get into the business type thing. Talk to us about your path and how it came about, but tell us what's different, or like what you would have done different and how it opened your eyes a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm gonna sound like an old timer, which I'm not 40 yet. I'm not that old, but I have been doing this for over 15 years now. When I started, I was in college at the time, and I happened to see a flyer for a pro wrestling show at the school's Coliseum. I went to Sam Houston State University in Huntsville, Texas, which is about an hour north of Houston, just kind of out in the woods of East Texas. The town of Huntsville, it is a prison and a college. It's like 40,000 people, so it's not tiny, but it's just kind of out there. Saw a flyer for pro wrestling at the basketball Coliseum there. Blew my mind. Like, there is pro wrestling that I can just go and watch. That's not like WWF coming to town. Because I had been watching pro wrestling since before I can remember. Like, since I could walk, that was like all I ever wanted to do was be a pro wrestler. Graduated high school, went into college and stuff. I didn't even know at the time, like, you could just go find someone to train you and pay them some money. Like, I didn't know how you got into it. And this was 2005. Well, this would have been 2006 when I got to there, but the internet's a thing, but it's not quite as easy as just like, there's a Facebook page for every pro wrestling school, or it, like, all that information is not as easily found. So I never thought about it or looked into it, but I get there. I see a flyer. I took my brother, who was my roommate. I was like, dude, let's go watch some wrestling. Like, we grew up watching wrestling. We watch this show, which was to me at the time, I thought they were all just like great. Like, these are pro wrestlers. Like, this is pro wrestling. In hindsight, it wasn't the best show. But that's besides the point. So anyway, afterwards, I just kind of walked around to the back of the arena where they were breaking down the ring. And I was like, who runs this? And they pointed me to a 5'8" bald guy named High Roller Hayes. And I was like, hey, man, how do you become a pro wrestler? And he's like, oh, I actually have a school and I run training. It's $300 down and $100 a month. And like I said, I enjoyed it at the time. I thought like these were all pro wrestlers, but I'm kind of looking at the dudes they have here. And I was like, I ain't got $300 to give you, but I can come up with $100 a month. And he was like, all right, deal. So he gives me an address and a date, and I drive outside of Huntsville into just the woods of East Texas. And I pull up on this property, and this is before there's GPS and smartphones and all that. I map quested the directions, printed them out, and I'm hoping I don't take a wrong turn and end up in Deliverance somewhere. I pull out. I meet this guy named Rocky, who wrestled on the show as the White Flash. He's the only one there. And he's like, hey, man, like, yeah, you're starting to like wrestling training tonight. I was like, yeah. He's like, cool. It's just me and you tonight. I was like, all right, man. Like, I want to pro wrestle. Just tell me what I got to do. He's like, cool. We got to put the ring up. And I was like, all right, I guess we're doing this. So this is November at the time, so it's getting dark a little bit earlier. We basically set up the ring, had about 30 to 45 minutes for him to show me how to bump and run the ropes. And then we had to take the ring down and put it back away. Which in hindsight is such a terrible like intro to doing this. But I was so excited just to get in a ring and start doing some pro wrestling that I was psyched about it. And so for a few months, I would drive out there twice a week. Every once in a while, there might be 2 or 3 other guys. I don't think we ever had more than 5 at a time. But Rocky, one of his gimmicks was the white flash. The other gimmick he had was a pimp named Royce G. He was a theater kid that just came up with funny characters. I actually really enjoyed training with him. The guy that I paid the $100 to was out there like 5 times ever. He never showed up. But yeah, I learned how to bump and run the ropes. But for someone that had literally been watching wrestling for 2 decades at that point, that was really all I needed to get started. That was November. By March, I had my first match and was just kind of rocking and rolling from there.
That's wild, man. Like in that now knowing like what it takes to put up a ring and tear down a ring. And that was your introduction with just 2 people doing it.
Yeah. 2 of us. And Rocky was like 165 pounds soaking wet. So I was doing most of the heavy lifting there.
That's worse than Josh and I unloading that wrestling ring by ourselves from that truck.
God.
And me paying the driver $50 to help us finally.
I always feel like an old man when I'm talking to wrestling students now. And I'm like, no, this is going to sound like an old man story, but literally when I started, we had to pull the ring out and build it every day because it was just outside and it had to go back in the storage shed. But that's really what I had to do. That being said, that $100, I paid him $100 like the first 2 months. And by the end of that, I was already like moving in the ring better than most of the people he had. And so I just kind of stopped paying him after that. And I don't think I ever paid more than $300 total for pro wrestling training. And here I am 15 years later.
Nice. Hey, we get
still works better than some people that pay thousands of dollars.
It does. Like once I learned to bump and run the ropes, learn the basics and all that, I ended up getting to train under some notable people. I got hooked up about 2 years in. I had moved to San Antonio. I was training with Rudy Boy Gonzalez, which he's pretty much canceled for a reason. Terrible human being, but great pro wrestling trainer. I got to train under him, never had to pay him a dime. After that, moved back to Houston. I trained at Booker's for like 2 years, never had to pay because I was already working. He's like, yeah, I'm booking you on shows. Come get workouts in. Ended up in Colorado at Rocky Mountain Pro. We had 2 Cold Scorpio coming in as our trainer for a while. Trained with Scorpio. Never had to pay a dime there. So like, I think I did all right.
Yeah, I'd say so. Hey, I'm looking at the chat. We've got, actually, you just pulled it up there. We got a list that says, I love the mug. What mug do you got?
This is Ron Swanson from Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
On the front and on the back, it says, I regret nothing. The end.
Yes. I love it.
I appreciate the compliment. Parks and Rec is my all-time favorite TV show.
It's great.
I love
it's a good
it.
one. Yeah. So, like I said, when we introduced you, we've seen you in HCW, Journey Pro, Fountain City, and we cover and promote all Kansas and Missouri pro wrestling. We kind of stemmed out a little bit into other Midwest, but kind of talk to us about how you feel the Midwest wrestling scene is today. Like how good or not so good do you think it is today, maybe compared to 10 years ago?
Yeah. So I am relatively new to the Midwest as far as pro wrestling goes. My wife and I moved to Wichita from Denver about 3 years ago. So I'm a bit limited in my experience. And also like the Kansas, Missouri part of it is only part. Because typically when you think Midwest, you're thinking kind of into St. Louis and Chicago and all that. And while I haven't worked out that way, I'm familiar with enough that there is some really good wrestling out there. I think this side of the Midwest, kind of getting into the Great Plains, I think I've seen it grow a lot over the last few years. Journey Pro was a phenomenal company. They put on great shows, drew great houses. Fountain City has kind of taken that place of putting on a good pro wrestling show, drawing a big crowd. And I've been most surprised by what Billy has built at HCW. We first moved out here, he was booking XWE. So I worked for them for about a year until he split off into his own thing, which funny story about that. I did not know until the split happened that Billy didn't own XWE. Apparently some guy named Duncan owned it, or still owns it technically. I never met the man. I worked there for a year. I don't think I was ever introduced. So I just thought it was Billy's company. So he told me one day, yeah, I'm starting my own company. I was like, don't you have one? And then he explained everything to me and I figured it out from there. But he's got something special going on in Wichita with HCW. This is the kind of town where pro wrestling does really well. It's a big enough metro area that you're not just devoid of people to show up. And there's also not a lot going on at most times. So the crowds will go up and down a little bit, but generally you're looking around at least like 200 and they're genuinely entertained and enjoying the show. So my limited experience in the Midwest between Fountain City and HCW, at least over the few years I've been out here, it seems like it's growing and it's picking up, which is great.
Austin, do you have any people in the Midwest that you haven't gotten an opportunity to work that you're like, hey, I would really like to work them?
Quite a few, actually. Most of the former Journey Pro roster, and a lot of that transfers over to the Fountain City roster. Camaro is the first one that pops up. One of my favorite things to do in pro wrestling is just bumping my ass off for big guys. Like I would have some fun working Camaro. I wouldn't mind working Gary J again. I worked Gary J at least a decade ago down for Inspire Pro in Austin. Worked him in a singles, and then the next month we had a four-way. It was me, him, I believe Davey Vega, and Jonathan Gresham were in a four-way, which it's kind of wild that, like, at the time I was not familiar with Jonathan Gresham, and then to see everything he's done since then, and Gary as well. But yeah, Gary J, Camaro, Luke Langley, I would like to work. I've been on tons of shows with him. And then also just in the tag sense, because that's mostly what I'm doing these days, tag with my man T2G. Like to get in there with the Premier. I got to do a trios against them at Journey at one point, but I think a proper tag would be a good time.
Yeah, speaking of T2G and ACFC, we had Tommy on about a year or so ago, and we kind of asked him his side. Kind of tell us how, from your perspective, how ACFC formed and your relationship with Tommy.
Yeah, so this was before HCW had launched, still XWE. We had moved to Wichita. I started working for Billy out of XWE, did a couple singles matches. I showed up to a show, and he's like, hey, man, do you mind tagging with one of my students? I need to get a match. And I had met Billy before we'd even moved out here. He came out to Rocky Mountain Pro when I was booking out there for a big Bob Evans seminar and all that. So I was familiar with Billy, and he had known enough about me to just be like, hey, can you kind of help this kid out in this tag match? And I was like, yeah, man, I'm down to do, you're paying me whatever you want. I'll go out there and give you something good. He threw us in a tag match against Malico. Are y'all familiar with Malico out of Oklahoma? Clown guy.
Yeah, we've seen him a while back. Yeah.
So it was him and some giant ass dude that had like a burlap sack mask, if I remember correctly. They were like this real scary big tag team. And I was like, all right, dude. Because at the time, I think T2G was like 6 months in. He wasn't very experienced. So I was like, this is going to be the easiest match you ever had. We are going to scream like girls and bump our asses off for these two big scary monsters because we're the heels. And that's all you have to do. And we went out there and just kept tagging each other in and out to be afraid to go fight the big guy, just run into him, literally just bump off, go to the corner and tag. Every time we got our hands up, just shriek. And it was one of the funnest matches I've ever had. Got to the back. I was like, you know what, Billy, that was a good time. I'm down to keep tagging with your boy if you want to put him with me. And that was the start of ACFC. The name wouldn't come till much later. But yeah, had a good time tagging with him. I love tag team wrestling. I've been in this is like the 5th tag team I've ever been in. And I like teaching the kids up a little bit. There's about a 10-year age gap between me and T2G. So it's been fun to kind of coach him along the way as we've been tagging.
Where did the name come from? Who came up with that one? ACFC.
I don't actually remember if it was me or him that came up with it.
Air Capital Fight Club, right?
So it's Air Capital Fight Crew.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the first one that was pitched was Air Capital Fight Club. But at the time, you had the Blackpool Combat Club, and it sounded too similar, even though for the longest time, we were going to have a running bit where we weren't ever going to tell anyone what it actually stood for or just make up something different every time. That lasted like 6 months. And then we just settled on Air Capital Fight Crew. But yeah, I can't remember if it was me or him that came up with it. I think it was like a collaboration going back and forth, and we kind of just got to it. But yeah, it's worked pretty well so far.
Agreed.
Austin, you guys won the KWA tag team titles. And then Billy came out and retired them and then introduced those cool looking blue bear claw HCW. Oh, you're gonna
I got it sitting right here.
Yeah.
Look,
Oh
you got
man,
a little shine on it, but yeah, you got some bears. Let me see if I can hold up a little bit closer.
that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
beautiful.
sharp looking tag titles.
Absolutely. So kind of talk to us about that, like the journey that you and T2G have gone on in the past couple of years. Having Billy come out there and present both of you with that. Kind of talk to us what that meant to you and T2G together.
Yeah, absolutely. So I historically have not particularly cared about championships. I like putting matches together. I like just doing pro wrestling. But I've always considered myself like, if I had to pitch myself to somewhere to get booked, I would say I am the best other half of a match you're going to find. Like I said earlier, I'm not flashy. I'm not a super strong character, but I will get whoever you put me with over. And that's what I enjoy doing. I like most of this, like, we all know that this is somewhat predetermined and we talk in the back and kind of figure some things out. When I'm putting a match together, more often than not, over half the spots I pitch end up in me taking a bump. It's stuff like, hey, what if you do this to me? And like, how do we build it and stuff? That's the stuff I like doing. So historically, I have not particularly cared about holding titles because I like losing. And kind of we're going back to the fun finishes like the Brett finish or the Pop and Arjun with the Nux coming over the top. I like coming up with finishes where I lose, like finding creative and fun ways to lose. But that being said, getting these belts that were newly debuted with T2G, that was a super cool moment. Like I said, when I started tagging with him, he was like 6 months in. He's an athletic dude, and athleticism covers a lot in this business. But he could barely move his feet. He could run the ropes and bump, but had a lot of work to go. So it wasn't just that moment. It was also seeing his progress and the story we told to get to that moment. Kind of going back to HCW, their crowd's really like, it's the same crowd every time. You get some more like people add. It's not just the exact same people, but you've got a strong core there that genuinely keeps up with what's going on in the matches and wants to see what happens next. And so even going back to XWE, we had spent the better part of 2 years feuding with Chocolate Violence, who were the KWA tag champs at the time. And kind of a running thing that was happening in our matches at HCW for the longest time is when we would lose, it was because T2G got caught. And that's not me just being the old pro wrestling vet of, well, you take the pin because you're the kid. It was to tell a story. And so that was what always caught us up, especially when we wrestled Chocolate Violence. They would find a way to get me out of the ring for a second. They would hit him with the chancla behind the ref's back or something like that, and they would pin him. We finally get to the match where we win the titles. They throw me out of the ring. They pop him with the chancla behind the ref's back, hit their tag finish, and he kicks out at the last second. And that place just went wild. We hit our tag finish. He gets the pin, and then we get the new titles. It was what I love about pro wrestling. Just simple, fun storytelling.
I was on commentary that night, and it was insane. It was easily tied for the biggest pop of the night. Easily. And Austin is completely correct. When Tommy kicked out, that place went haywire. And then when you guys got the 3, they went nuts. They lost it.
I can only imagine. That's awesome.
It was such a good time.
Is this is this Saturday going to be your first title defense?
This will be our second title defense. We won the belts in November. We defended them against Chancla Violence again in December, retained. And so this will be our next defense.
Okay. So did you want to kind of talk a little bit about your upcoming match against OnlyFriends?
Yeah. This will be our second time getting in the ring with them as a tag team. The first time was under slightly different circumstances. We were the heels at that time. It was also at a tattoo convention, and it was a softcore match where the weapons were inflatable balloons, which in the right venue, give me absolutely silly premises all day long. Like I love just silliness in pro wrestling. So that was a good time. But yeah, this will be our first time at HCW proper, working them, defending our tag titles against them. I have known Stormi Renee for quite some time now, for a few years. I brought her out to Triple L to wrestle her one time about 2 years ago. Like I said, I normally come up with fun ways to lose. She literally powerbombed me off the top rope and speared me, and that place went crazy because they love to see a girl beat up a guy, which whatever they're buying, I'm selling. So that was a good time. Logan, I had actually worked him once at HCW in a 6-way, but I worked with him in a 4-way singles match at XWE years ago. I think he was still wrestling as Warren Powers at the time. And even after that match, I was asking Billy, I was like, let me work that Warren Powers guy in a singles. Like he seems like he's got a good attitude about this. Like, and I'm down to work green people all the time because he was a little bit less experienced at the time. Give me your inexperienced people so I can show them how easy pro wrestling is. Because someone did that for me way back in the day. And I'll finish talking about OnlyFriends and we'll get to that story. It's kind of a fun one. But yeah, I'm looking forward to getting to work them in a proper tag where we're not bopping each other with inflatable balloon pickaxes and whatnot, because that's just what was going on at that tattoo convention. Should be a really good time.
We got Matt Stockdale in the chat. He said, Austin, how did the chop look like on Gavin Bush in the Rumble?
Which one? Because there were 40, give or take. So yeah, the Red Kettle Rumble that we did, it's a Salvation Army charity thing that HCW did in December. There was a Rumble. And for the second time, I talked Billy into letting me enter first and run the gauntlet. I didn't win either of them, but I was like, bro, you're having a Rumble. Let me go out first and last the entire time until the end. Because I love Rumbles. I will just walk around, come up with a fun little silly spot on the fly, especially when I'm a heel in Rumbles. I'll end up bumping like 40 times during the match. But anyway, so we have this Red Kettle Rumble, and HCW's roster is a little babyface heavy. And number 3 or 4 coming out was Gorgeous Gavin Bush, which, if y'all aren't familiar, he's at HCW, one of Billy's students, young guy. I think he's only 19, 20, something like that. Young kid, but he gets it. He's the kind of guy where I was like, hey man, start strutting around like Brutus Beefcake. And he's a heel, like a pretty boy heel. And you tell him something like that and his eyes just light up. Like he gets the character and like the inherent silliness in pro wrestling. But unfortunately for him, he was like the only heel in the first dozen or so people out there. And it was just getting such a reaction every time he got chopped. Like, we were all feeling bad for him after a while. At one point when Remington Roar came in, he kind of took him to a corner. He's like, I'm going to work you over here so you don't get chopped again for a bit, because he got chopped so many times. But I told him afterwards, I was like, dude, chops suck, but at the end of the day, it's a slap. Like, you are not going to get injured from it. And the reason why you got chopped that many times is because you were the only person in the ring who it mattered if they got chopped, and those people are going to have a reaction. So like, that's something to hang your hat on. Like, that's good. So yeah, he did not have a great time in that Rumble, but he killed it in his time out there.
That's awesome.
I love it. He I called it when he first came out as Gavin Bush. And he came out using, a Bush song as his theme song and everything. And, it was a great wordplay, but just, it was missing something. And then he added the gorgeous and just went full fledged into the gimmick. I couldn't agree more, Austin. I think he gets it.
It's funny you mention his entrance music, because he changed it. Because I told him, you have to change your entrance track.
Yeah,
I was like,
you can't be gorgeous Gavin Bush and still have Machine Head as your theme song.
I was like, I had Razor Blade Suitcase on CD back in the 90s. Like, I enjoy Bush. Glycerin is an all-time banger. They've got a great track list. But just because your name's Bush doesn't mean you have to come out to Bush unless you're going for a grunge gimmick, and you were born a decade after grunge. So like, that's not going to work.
It's not going to work.
So I was like, bro, change your music to Sharp Dressed Man by ZZ Top. And he did. And it got even more over. And it fits perfectly for him.
It does. I love it so much.
I've seen a few videos of him. I've not seen him in person yet, but I'm excited one of these days to get out to Wichita, or if he comes up to Leavenworth.
He's at Leavenworth all the time, brother. You got to make it to Leavenworth.
I do. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. So as we kind of wind this down a little bit, I did want to ask, you've been in the business for 15 years. You've been around the Midwest, Texas. You've wrestled around. Is there an ultimate goal that you want to accomplish in wrestling before you decide to hang him up?
Nah, not a single one. Like, if a random wizard popped up tomorrow and was like, I curse you and you'll never wrestle again. Like, okay, man, I've enjoyed every second of it. There was a time like a decade ago where I think most people that get into this business, they have those dreams and those goals of, I want to do this full time. I want to be on TV. I think a lot of people that get into pro wrestling don't understand what it actually takes to get there. And a lot of it is luck, but you've got to look the part. Your work has to be absolutely crisp. You've got to be able to do so many things at a high level, and then you need the luck to be in the right place at the right time. The gap between TV wrestlers and a lot of what you see on the indies is a lot larger than a lot of people think. But saying that, I think it's good for independent wrestlers over time to just get real comfortable with, this is art, and this is your art or my art, whoever's doing the wrestling. And I don't mean that in a pretentious way. It's just, it can just be that. I've whittled my schedule down. I work Fountain City. I work HCW. I work Triple L. We make it down to Wrestle Rave down in Houston every once in a while. And then every once in a while, one off pops up. But I enjoy getting it to entertain the crowds I get to entertain. And I no longer want or need more than that. And if a cool opportunity comes along, I absolutely wouldn't say no. But I've got to do a lot of really cool stuff. I've got to wrestle for Ring of Honor. I've got to wrestle for the New Japan Tag Team titles. I've got to wrestle in Puerto Rico. I think the biggest thing I can hang my hat on is I have a trainee that's making their full-time living as a pro wrestler. For those of you that are familiar with Abaddon and AEW, I trained Abaddon. So I've got to do a lot of cool stuff, and this is all just a victory lap for me now. I have no thoughts of quitting anytime soon. A couple years ago, I was having like real bad sciatica and back problems, and I stopped for a little while, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling healthy. And as long as there's a crowd to entertain and a promotion that wants me to come out and work, like, I'm happy, man. I did a good 2 to 3 years of the on the road every weekend, working multiple shows, spending all this time in a car. And that was enough. That kind of coming out of that, I realized I just want to get in a ring and have matches. I don't necessarily want to only do that for years and years and years on time or at a time.
I like it. Austin, if you don't mind, how old are you?
I will be 38 in April.
Okay. You're right there. Okay. You're right there with Josh and I, because you threw me off earlier when you said you were under 40 still. I was like, oh shit.
It varies by the facial hair. I look much younger when I'm clean shaven. I look much older. Like if I completely clean shave, I have people think I'm in like my very early 30s. And when I look vaguely homeless like I do now, like I could be 45 for all anybody knows. So it varies with the facial hair.
No, I agree. Josh is the exact same way. Josh is maybe a year older than me. Because you're 87, right, Josh?
Pretty close. Yeah.
Okay. I'm 88.
Take off this hat. You go 87.
The year,
not the actual age. Okay. Take off this hat and I might look 87.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Like he'll surprise you. You know, he's got a little frost there in the beard, but when he takes that hat off, and he's been gray since he's been 23 or 24.
Yeah.
Dude, I've been bald since I was like 22. Like I started getting a little bit of a horseshoe in my early 20s. I had the sense to finally shave it. I don't think the pictures actually exist anymore because I am notoriously terrible about taking pictures or putting them on the internet. But when I first started wrestling, I had like kind of shaggy hair. But no one had pulled me aside and was like, dude, it's thinning out on top and it looks terrible. Just shave your head. For like the first 2 years I was wrestling. And then I figured out like bald just where I'm going. But that's why I look older with the beard, because it starts graying out here, which is why I started growing out, because I want to look like a wizard as I get older. Like I can't wait till all this shit's gray.
There you
go. I love it. So Austin, as we wind this down, man, I want to ask you, so you can kind of let everybody know, talk to us about your future bookings or ventures that you got going on in the next few weeks, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously we covered this Saturday, HCW, myself and TTG against OnlyFriends. We're defending our HCW tag titles. HCW is every month here in Wichita, and you can find them on Facebook, Heartland Championship Wrestling, for a list of actual dates. Coming up in the not too distant future, we're gonna have Fountain City. Have y'all announced the date for that yet?
We have March 14th.
Okay, I didn't know. I couldn't remember it was officially announced. I didn't want to like spoil something for you, but yes, March 14th out at Fountain City. March 7th is the next Lucha Libre and Laughs, which if you're a pro wrestling fan and you want to take a trip somewhere to see some pro wrestling, go to Denver for a Lucha Libre and Laughs show. Denver is an awesome city. The mountains are right there. Lucha Libre and Laughs is, and I mean this with no disrespect, because Fountain City is great. Heartland Championship Wrestling is great. Lucha Libre and Laughs is the most fun, unique pro wrestling experience you'll ever have. Most of the crowd. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, from what I've seen, you know, they've got the booze. You know, we had Hoodie on here, and you know, Hoodie kind of talked about like the vision of, you know, why he liked Journey Pro when Journey Pro started out in a bar. It mixed beer and drinks and wrestling, and like I said, Lucha. I was just gonna agree with you. Lucha Libres and Laughs just looks like so much fun. Colorado Springs is one of my favorite places to vacation. It's an hour outside of Denver.
Yeah, You got to make it out there for Triple L. It's its own thing. And that's why I'll say it's like the most fun pro wrestling experience, but it's not really just a pro wrestling show. You've got stand-up comedy sets in between. You have phenomenal comedians doing in-house commentary, which I historically cannot stand in-house commentary. It's annoying when you're trying to cheat behind the ref's back and the commentary team's like, oh, Austin Reddick has a chair. Like, don't tell the ref, man. He's got ears. He can tell what's going on.
You're on the PA system, asshole.
Yeah. But this, they're not doing just like serious pro wrestling commentary. They're literally just cracking jokes the entire time. And they're actual good comedians. It's not just like some weirdo marks that are just trying to get themselves over and pop themselves. They are legit practicing stand-up comedians that come do the commentary on the show. There's sets of other comedians in between. The crowd, I would imagine 60 to 75% of that crowd never watches pro wrestling on TV. They are not pro wrestling fans. They are Triple L fans. So it's the kind of place where it's pro wrestling at its silliest. Like I said, I love silliness in pro wrestling. If you've never been, you got to go at some point in time. It's such a good time. And it's the only place I've ever seen that will have names come in and just not announce them. They'll be a surprise. This last show in January, the opener, neither of them were advertised, but it was Heidi Howitzer versus Colt Cabana.
Wow. And like from the ones that I have watched, and I'll say this because, it's fun. It's funny. There's so much, they don't take it too seriously, but the matches are still like really fucking good matches.
Yeah. And
they had Dak and his partner versus the Howlets this last show. They've got Warhorse coming in. I would love to see that dynamic. The commissaire, serious character of Jake Parnell, the leader of nihilism in the ring, while some guy's trying to perform stand-up comedy in the background. Like that's
So this last one, during the Heidi Howitzer Colt Cabana match, they did a spot where Colt had thrown her out of the ring and then walked over and grabbed the mic from the comedy guys and was like talking to the crowd. And he felt a tap on his shoulder, which was Heidi Howitzer. Like he's just set up a fun little comedy spot. And he's like, wait, who's behind me? And some random fan in the crowd just yells out, CM Punk. Colt, without missing a beat, goes, well, that would be awkward.
In the middle of a match.
But this is the same company where like the anniversary show, I believe it was the anniversary show last year. It was me and T2G. The second night of the anniversary show was me and T2G against Frightmare and Hollow Wicked against Heidi Howitzer and this lucha named Delta Jr. And this was a spot where me and T2G got waterboarded with beer by all four of them at the same time. Complete comedy three-way tag, but then on that same show, you also got Royce Isaacs versus Jeff Cobb, which was absolute flames.
Yeah.
Minoru Suzuki has been there twice.
Yep.
It's the wildest, like it's a Wild West show. It's just entertainment at its best.
Yeah. I trust me, I want to go so fucking bad.
I would recommend, if you can make it happen, go in May when we do the anniversary show, because it's always a Friday, Saturday back to back. So if you're going to make the trek out, get a double dose. But the anniversary show, the promoter usually goes all out for those too. So like that's a good time.
Awesome.
So Austin, can you tell us, is there anywhere outside of the venue at the shows where we can buy some Austin Reddick or ACFC merch?
So we do have ACFC shirts now, and we have those because T2G went and got them made. I just paid him for half of it. I am notoriously terrible about merch. I've had some 8x10s and some little rubber bracelets, and in 15 years of pro wrestling, like that's all I've ever had. Like I said, I just like putting matches together, getting in there and just doing pro wrestling. So sometimes I need people to be like, hey, dumbass, sell some stuff at the merch table because it works and you make more money, which we've already made our money back on the shirt. So There are 8 ACFC shirts. They will be available at the show tomorrow, probably in Leavenworth in February as well. That's about all I have for merch. I am working on getting some actual shirts made. I actually have, this is an Austin Reddick shirt, the last bar fighter, Austin Reddick. My man JJ with Total Spot Fest, which if y'all are not familiar, well, I know y'all two are familiar, but those listening, I am the resident in-ring correspondent for Total Spot Fest Wrestling Podcast. We are on YouTube Wednesday nights, roughly 30 minutes after Dynamite. So check us out sometime if you're so inclined. But yeah, JJ made the super rad t-shirt design. I just have not got around to getting like a production run of them yet, and I need to.
There you go. So in another thing, tell people where they can find you on social media so people can follow your future ventures and future events that you're booked on.
Yes, sir. So at Reddick Rules on Twitter and Instagram. I also have an Austin Reddick page on Facebook that I post on about once a quarter because I hate Facebook. If wrestling did not exist, I would not have a Facebook. Like, I just have it to share show flyers. But if you like go through my feed or story timeline, whatever it is, I occasionally post a cool pic someone took of me wrestling, and it's just sharing stuff. Like I don't post much on social media. I am a lurker though. Instagram a little more frequently, like maybe once every 3 weeks, I'll drop something on Instagram. And then Twitter, I just retweet cool stuff I see and things about the Denver Nuggets. And that's all the social media interaction I do. But if you do follow me, I do share flyers for every show I'm on. So that's a good way to keep up with where you might see Austin Reddick.
There you go. I was just gonna say I run the social medias for Fountain City, and guaranteed it never fails. If we post something on Twitter, the first 2 people always to like and retweet are you and Gary J.
It's free, man. It costs nothing to just share the stuff. Like,
yep.
And it also helps me because, again, I don't really post anything myself. So like that just makes it look like I'm not a ghost on Twitter. I actually do things. So yeah, man, it's weird to me that wrestlers are on shows and can't share the flyer for the show. Like, are you not proud of what you do? Like, do you not want people to see that? And I understand the perspective of maybe you're like way out of town. You don't actually know anyone there that might go, but still it gets traction. It gets things moving. I don't know much about social media, but I feel like sharing shit helps. So I do it as much as I can.
That is definitely one.
Yeah.
That is definitely part of the algorithm.
Are we good? My internet come back up? I know I froze there for a second.
Yeah. You'll move kind of slow and then you'll move super fast. So
well, so as we close this out, Austin, we appreciate you for taking the time out to do this, man. It was a great time. We like to close everything out. You saw it in the intro, and we like to put you center screen and kind of have you turn up the gimmick a little bit and say, this is Austin Reddick, and you are watching the I-70 Hot Tag.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, you can start whenever you get center screen.
What's up, everybody? This is the handsome man with the heaviest hands in the heartland, Austin Reddick, and you are watching the I-70 Hot Tag.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us tonight.
Appreciate y'all having me on. Which, really quick, before I go, I was talking to the Total Spot Fest boys last night. They did say they had talked to y'all a long time ago about possibly doing some collaboration. So we're gonna reach out to y'all. We're gonna figure something fun out for the not too distant future.
Yeah,
absolutely,
for sure.
The only thing is, Austin, Josh acts as old as he looks, so you will probably never get Josh to stay up past or 30 minutes past Dynamite. Won't happen.
I appreciate that this is early. I also act about as old as I look. And we usually go a solid 90 minutes to 2 hours on Total Spot Fest, and Thursday mornings end up being kind of rough, which I don't even have to get up that early. I work from home. But still, like, I'm usually in bed at a reasonable hour, but I stay up to chat some wrestling on Wednesday nights. But we'll figure something out. We'll do maybe a special weekend time slot collaboration thing. We'll figure something out where we don't have to stay up late, because I'm on board with you. I don't like staying up late, especially twice in 1 week.
Agreed.
All right, sir. We'll appreciate it, and we'll let us know, and we'll collab.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, buddy.
Absolutely,
Take care.
sir. Have a good night.
All right.
The last bar fighter, right?
That's what I said. Yep.
Okay.
Austin
I wanted to make sure
Reddick.
the outlaw or bar fighter. I'll probably remember it, or what I'll probably do is go watch the replay, just look at his shirt, be like, what does that say? Austin Reddick, man, we appreciate Austin taking the time to do that tonight. Super fun. We're right at an hour. We're about to get kicked off of the Instagram, aren't we?
We're still going, barely.
Well, did we start it later? Maybe.
No, I should have waited till we got Austin on, but yeah, we're right. We're close to that getting kicked off here. Best show all around. It's All Pro Wrestling is watching us. It says the best show around. So appreciate that.
Hell yeah, man. Make sure you hit the the thingy majigger.
Oh yeah.
The follow button. Sorry. Chase, we need to update your setup, dog. Yeah, I know. My garage is all a mess right now. So
what I'm really concerned about is I'm not seeing a poster of pancakes right now.
So
did that fall down?
No, it didn't. My wife moved it into the basement because she wanted to put me like in the basement area. The problem is that, you know, my basement like living area is open. I'm sure you can attest. And Dimitri plays his VR in the living room. So I'm not gonna have my 12-year-old on his VR saying highly inappropriate stuff to people while I'm live on the I-70 hot tag trying to look somewhat professional. So
we ain't professional on this show. It's all right.
Heard that. Wish you didn't hear that, but I just heard that. All right, man. Let's do you got anything other than what I'm looking at on this rundown here?
No, it's we got the rundown for
fantastic. Is Beckerman still in the chat?
I doubt it. He said he had to go to bed early. He's pulling a Josh.
Beckerman is getting frustrated. He was hounding us. He was hounding us last week. He's hounding us this week. I'll tell you guys what, for the people that are still here, very, very small amounts. So you guys get the exclusive. There will be a video announcement for the next show this weekend. And since there's such a small amount of people here, we will announce the main event and tickets will go on sale February 1st. So that's what the video is going to be, a show announcement and just letting people know that tickets go on sale February 1st. So
Fountain City Pro, light it up too.
Well, see, nobody's revealed the show name until you just did, asshole. So I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say there's been 2 graphics released.
Well, the one graphic was the logo, but the lights were turned off. But it's okay. Sorry.
Anyway, all the 4 people watching, you got the nitty gritty.
Josh is like, dude, you just gave away our mapped out plan for the next 2 weeks, and I say the show name, and you get butthurt after you already revealed the show name, sort of, kind of, whatever. This is so much fun. I was dreading doing this tonight because of my freezing garage. I can't feel the sides of my head and the top of my head. But I mean, I'm still having fun. So it was a great night.
It was a great night. Speaking of great night, let's close this out like we always do. Let's chat
Absolutely.
what's coming up in the local scene, Kansas and Missouri. We talked a little bit to Austin about it, but New Year's Mayhem happening this Saturday, January 25th in Wichita. Handsome Gavin Bush is going to be there. He talked about him. Also, ACFC is going to defend those tag titles. Ray Leon has a title defense just announced recently. Was that this couple days ago? He'll be there defending the title.
Might have been today.
Might have been today. I get my days mixed up. So, and who's Ray defending against? Chance Carrier again, right?
No, not Chance.
No, Chance is my bad.
No, I sent you the graphic earlier. It's
you did.
Paradox.
That's right. Paradox. My bad.
Yeah. And where Paradox goes, the baseball bat is never too far behind. Make sure you go check that out. If you guys are not in the Wichita area, can't make it out there, then I recommend watching live on Facebook. Our guys, B. Smith Enterprises, the same people that video produce our shows, the Fountain City Pro shows, also do HCW. So make sure you go holler at those guys.
It's always fun to watch. I those Wichita shows I always tune in on Facebook, and it's fun to watch. I love the live. Journey Pro used to do it. Glory Pro does it occasionally. Let's see. Brody's still here, my dude.
A lot of people still do it. The problem is that a lot of it now is like streaming services, like IWTV. Nothing wrong with IWTV, but I mean, some of the smaller, the smaller promotions, like HCW, Fountain City. Facebook is where it's at.
That's what we build. So a company that we have not talked about in a while, and really we haven't been on the hot tag for consistently for a while, but a company that I did want to call out is WWX, World Wrestling Express, out of Larned, Kansas. They're running a show. Larned. Anyway, I always say that name wrong. I got two graphics to show you. The reason I'm showing them is because they have Sonny Ono is going to be in the house in Scott City, Kansas, February 8th. And then also there's a video. I did not get a chance to clip it, but I just kind of took a screenshot. That is WCW WWE wrestler Perry Saturn is also going to be in Scott City, Kansas on February 8th. So, and it's crazy. Yeah. I didn't realize, they're running in Scott City, not Larned. So they're,
is he going to have Moppy with him this weekend?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would too.
Yeah.
Dogs eat applesauce to protect the ozone layer. You're welcome.
And I do want to. I mean, I'm glad to hear that he's doing better health wise. I know Perry Saturn had some health issues there for a little bit, but
yes.
I think he's coming up. Shooter will be in Nebraska this weekend at MWA. Nice. I think I saw that graphic. They're in Nebraska, so we don't typically pull those graphics into this show, but again, they are Midwest, so hopefully, she just wrestled in what? She was in ACXW. She's going to be at Show Me State. And then, anyway. Same day.
Wrestling.
February 8th, yeah.
Yes.
So
are you taking it or am I taking it?
I'll take it. Go ahead. Luke Langley is going to be there. Jason Jones. We talked last week. Kelsey Magnolia is coming back. She was over in Japan training and doing some shows over there. So she's back. Colton Theron Vaught, which I was very disappointed. I think he was on the graphic for the St. Joe show, and then he was not there, unfortunately. So I still have not seen CTV in person. Many matches I've seen online on video, but it was a fun show though, man.
Absolutely.
Chase.
Glory Pro anniversary. We talked about Glory Pro, at our last show. Laney Luck, your new women's Crown of Glory champion. The new guys, love watching them. And then, man, if you watch our friends Glory Pro on the regular, you will know that Cody Lane is on an absolute terror. He beat Ricky Starks, and he just recently beat Jake Parnell, the Commissaire Warhorse, to become the Crown of Glory champion. Like I said, Cody Lane is just it's his world at Glory Pro. And they are back on streaming. I know they've kind of moved around to some different ones, man. Would love to kind of get their outlook on which one they feel like has benefited them the most. We saw them on Thriller, I think it was back when it was Fight TV.
Yeah.
We also see them with Gerald Bentley's Wrestling Spotlight.tv. They might still be on there. I don't know. And then now they're going to be on High Spots. So would love to kind of get their outlook on that. But if you guys are not in the St. Louis area and you guys can't be at the South Broadway Athletic Club, make sure you check this show out on High Spots TV. Glory Pro shows are always fantastic.
Yes. Yes. There's the one thing that I've kind of missed with this show, the hot tag, on a consistent basis, is I'm not keeping up as closely to the St. Louis side of our coverage area. And Glory Pro was one that I love. Them and Anarchy and WrestleMax and all those guys out there. They put on a hell of a show. So
yeah,
never
man,
gonna
and
go wrong.
It's crazy because like I said, they're on High Spots now. Anarchy is on IWTV. PWE Pro Wrestling Epic is on IWTV. So it's like, dude, like
Yeah.
I'm gonna have between Triller or Thriller, whatever it is now, High Spots and IWTV, I'm gonna have a $30 or $40 independent wrestling bill now on streaming.
Stitch of Mania's in the house watching at B-Dubs and Topeka. You get us on the big screen there, Stitch. Come on.
Get
us up there.
Right as we're about to close out.
That is a damn good look at that logo he's got there. That old NWO Lightning.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
Let's move on. We got New Breed Wrestling. Their next show. I won't read all this, but their next show is March 1st in Eldon, Missouri. Go check them out. They like to travel around that middle Missouri. There'll be Warsaw every once in a while, Sedalia, Eldon, but their next show is
Macon, Missouri.
Yeah, they're gonna be all over middle Missouri. So go check them out. Doors open at 5 p.m. I'll take this one too because they're also in Missouri, middle Missouri, but another fairly new promotion that we haven't had a lot of time to chat about is Show Me State Wrestling. They're having the Wyatt Invitational, which is pretty cool because I'm pretty sure the last Wyatt Invitational was done at New Breed, and they're doing it at Show Me now. But Shooter Shaolin on the graphic, Slammer's going to be there, Nothing Neater, Derek Teeter, El Diablo. So go check them out. That's happening on March 15th in Fulton, Missouri.
Absolutely.
Chronological order. We're going to keep it going chronologically. We talked about it earlier.
There it is.
Yeah.
Coming soon. Has been a little bit of a hold off on announcing and promoting. Just had to get a few things figured out. Guys, please stay tuned to the Fountain City Pro social medias this weekend. And guys, the main event that we're going to announce, I'm super happy about this. You want to go ahead and announce it now, Josh? now that the numbers jumped back up, you want to go ahead and announce it now? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. I am not. Like I said, stay tuned to the Fountain City Pro social medias this weekend. There will be some stuff coming. So excited. Cannot wait for you guys to see what Fountain City Pro has planned on March 14th. So excited. Chronological order.
Yeah, let's close. We got 2 more shows real quick. St. Louis Anarchy, Gateway to Anarchy, happening March 28th. Gonna be a great show. Believe their last show was did they have one in January? Or no, they had one in December. Yuletide Terror, I believe, was their last show. So go check them out. Again, phenomenal St. Louis promotion. One of the many that's out there. So and you're gonna see your boy Jake Parnell out there. And then KCXW just released their next show, Unleashed, which this, like we talked about last week, me being on this new podcast called Nostalgia Mania. When I think about the hot tag, and I think about, for whatever reason, KCXW Unleashed was the first show that you and I talked about way back in April of 2022, because they had their show that was released, and I just remember that being the very first show that we talked about on the hot tag before we ever interviewed somebody.
Well, one of them, because the first show we actually talked about was No Turning Back.
You're correct. Yeah, because we just
we went to that show, and then we started this show.
Yeah, we broke it down, but for me, the first one we promoted like as an upcoming event was KCXW Unleashed. So yeah, man. That's it. That's what we got.
All right, sir.
Go to bed, bro.
All right. Yeah, no. No, I'm not going to.
I know it's really hard to hold back.
I'll talk about it before we do it. Well, we may touch on it next week, but we're not going to touch on it this week. What are we not going to touch on? I don't know. Maybe tune in next week and find out. If that's all, Josh, then hey, let's close this thing out. My name is Chase CR Media, as you all may know me. This right here is my friend, my co-host, my partner in this journey of independent professional wrestling, the real Josh Elliott. And this has been episode 92 of the I-70 Hot Tag. We interviewed Austin Reddick. Make sure you go back and watch the replay of it. It was a great interview. And without further ado, goodbye and good night.